What's up, bikers? Welcome to the B1KER Bar Podcast live stream, episode 132. Today, we have Trailboss USA, who are known for their packable tools. And before we get started, just do a real quick little blurb here. Those of you guys that are helping support the channels on Patreon, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I would love to see any one of you that are listening right now swing by and just drop a little token of your support. You know, it's like I say all the time, you buy a beer at the bar, you throw the bartender a buck, you can do the same thing, except for you get to listen to a podcast every week. So I appreciate everybody that's over there supporting me. It really means a lot. It helps things happen. Just the other day, I had to purchase a backup server, let's just call it that, to not get technical, so that I can make sure that I don't lose all the files that I have to make the videos for bikers. So that stuff, it's fully supported by Patreon. I really appreciate you guys there. So any of you that want to help out, please do. Otherwise, it puts beer in the fridge and keeps the stoke level high. So that's that. If you want something for free, swing by Instagram or Facebook. Give me a follow over there. Or if you're listening to this on YouTube and you haven't hit the subscribe button, just push the button. It's always fun pushing buttons, right? And if you're really excited while you're pushing buttons, hit the thumbs up button while you're at it too. I appreciate that. Those numbers, when they grow, it tells the algorithm like, hey, things are going good, and then makes me happy, and YouTube shows more people this stuff. Those of you guys on the podcast, thank you very much for listening there. And if you want to make this podcast just grow like crazy, which actually, man, it's really doing well in the mountain bike space. Go ahead and swing by, writing out a 4-star or 5-star review. I forget how many stars. All the stars review over on Apple Podcasts. That really helps. So I like to swing by there and read what you guys write. It means a lot, and it once again helps that algorithm. So when I first started this, I always thought that there would be more YouTube views than there is podcast downloads, and as it is now, more people listen on the podcast than they do on YouTube, which is pretty rad. Never thought that was going to happen. So anyways, today we have Bill from Trailboss. He is the boss of Trailboss. We'll go ahead and bring him back on. And how's it going, Bill?
Yeah, it's going good.
Not too shabby for ever since COVID, I can never remember what day of the week it is.
Yeah, it's in the middle.
Yeah.
Of the week somewhere. Yeah.
I was gonna say Thursday, but I'm pretty sure it's Wednesdays. Yeah. So you're up in the PNW, if I remember correctly. You guys are in
right, yeah, Bellingham, Washington.
Man, you guys are in the you guys got the hero dirt up there.
It's pretty nice,
right?
Pretty nice.
Do you guys even need tools? I would imagine you just use like brooms and spoons or something.
Yeah, we don't even rake it anymore. We just go ride it. It's fine.
I assume that you're a bike rider, or you've been a hiker.
How did you get into it? Yeah. Any two-wheel anything on dirt. Is pretty much what I like doing. So
like, have you been biking for a long time, or like?
Yeah, I came into mountain biking from the off-road moto world. So I started riding off-road motos when I was about 12 years old. Right. Which was, some people think that might have been before engines were invented, but but it had an engine, and did that. Started racing when I was about 15. Racing moto and racing desert in Southern California. Grew up in Southern California. Okay. Was a desert rat out there racing the AMA District 37 stuff for quite a while. Laid off, got married, had some kids, laid off from that, and then for a little bit, and then back into it. And my kids were forced to also ride motorcycles.
That's how it goes, right?
And so we grew up doing that, and a couple times a month out in the desert or at a moto track racing. And then in around 2000, I moved away, decided to stop racing altogether. I think I did my last race in 2001, and got into mountain biking.
Right on.
Yeah, and it was actually my oldest son and a friend of his started a bike shop right out of high school down in Tustin, California, and I was like, hey, I need to start doing something, and so I got into mountain biking in around 2000 or so. Yeah.
Right on. Is that the shop still open?
Yeah, it's called the Path.
Oh,
Path
cool.
Bike Shop in Tustin. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
that's
great
really,
shop. Yeah, really
yeah,
good.
that's rad. So, you were talking about doing moto and stuff growing up and throughout your life there.
Yeah.
What was your day job? Did it have something to do with like machining or something like that, or?
Yeah, I started off working in a machine shop when I was still in high school,
Uh-huh.
and did that for a while. Had a couple of really good opportunities working for shops with a bunch of old people in them,
Yeah.
who were friendly and happy to show me how to do things. And that's not always the case.
Yeah.
I fell in with a good small crew and learned an awful lot in a few years,
Yeah.
and that got my interest back up in learning a bit more about engineering. And so I ended up going back to school, um, and worked in the machine shop. Went to school at the same time.
Right on.
Ultimately became a manufacturing engineer,
Uh-huh.
and so that's most of my decades professional career was being a manufacturing engineer.
Oh, right on.
Um, yeah, got to travel around the world doing that, seeing all kinds of different places and different ways people do things,
Was it
and
in like moto bike kind of industry or just like?
no, I mean, yeah, there was that, but it was just general anything manufacturing,
Yeah, yeah.
anything from airplanes to crescent wrenches. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's the gamut of whatever people manufacture. So I had the good
Yeah.
fortune to work with Airbus and Boeing and Lockheed Martin and
Yeah.
GM and Ford and Chrysler and BMW, and
Right on.
go down the list, Bosch and Braun. And
That's one of
so
those fields that, I mean, it's a high level of expertise, and some people probably just look at it and they're like, I put a piece of metal in a machine, it does it all, and there's so
yeah,
much more to it. I
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say one of the interesting numbers that people throw around sometimes. You think of somebody either making a mechanical drawing of a thing they want to make,
Mm-hmm.
or make a CAD model of a thing they want to make,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's it, right? But a lot of people don't know that the downstream of that to actually make the thing can generate 100 other models
Yeah.
of that one thing, just to identify all the process steps
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
actually make the thing.
Yeah. I work
So,
for a company that we build robots that go down in the bottom of the ocean and
uh-huh,
do stuff.
yeah,
And we machine all our own things. So it's like some of those pieces on the ROV are just so complicated. And
mm-hmm,
you have to think about like, well, this drill bit has to go in at this angle. And
mm-hmm,
it has to be able to do this chamfer or whatever it is from this other direction. Like you can only hit it from so many directions. And so,
right,
and people don't really think about that. It's not like a mold where you just pour the plastic in and poof, there it goes,
mm-hmm, right,
So definitely,
yep,
definitely really interesting stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah,
along the way, you decide that you'd like to build trails or something, or?
yeah. It's another thing that's again, being the age that I am, so riding motos in the late '60s
Uh-huh.
and into the '70s. Um, we used to ride in the Southern Sierra Mountains in the uh, Inyo Sequoia National Forest and that area. And
Okay.
back in the day, back then, uh, there were pretty regular group trail work sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and the moto crowd would turn out, 100, 200 people on a weekend in the summertime up there, and we'd work with the Forest Service and maintain the trails.
Yeah.
And that was a regular thing. And that was in the
Did-
day when the Forest Service actually had trail crews. They actually had staff. They actually had people.
yeah.
Um, but we
Was
would
there
turn out
like
and work on trails. Right?
was there like a an animosity of the moto guys and the equestrians back then before mountain bikers were around?
Not so much. That grew later.
Yeah.
And we can philosophize for hours about why that happened. I don't really know, but there was definitely a change when the Forest Service became unfriendly towards motos in the places that we'd been riding motos for 100 years.
Yeah.
They became unfriendly. It was sort of a change in leadership. And they shut down all those trail work projects, and they cut off stemmed off the trails that we were riding, and shrunk the area. And it was really, there was a lot of I'm going to say environmental backlash going on with the off-road moto world. I was of course in the off-road moto world, so I consider what happened very unjustified and unfair.
No, I mean, I can see some similarities between that and how it is with mountain biking now, where it's like, I always question when we're out working on these multi-use trails, how many days the equestrian group or like the hiking groups are coming out and doing what we're doing, and it's like, I put a countless number of hours in building trails and maintaining them and all kinds of stuff. And I definitely don't run into like the equestrian group, like out doing it,
that was for sure one of the things that I encountered when I started mountain biking. It was pretty quickly. I pretty quickly realized, oh wait, there's this, no dig, no ride, support the trails, do your work, ethic in the mountain biking world that was, that had been ingrained in that from early days, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just thrilled to death that, hey, I joined this group of people. They're all into trail work. Oh, great, And so I definitely threw myself into that. Once I figured out that was going on, and just carried on like I'd been doing when I was a teenager riding a motorcycle. Doing that with a mountain bike and working on trails, and then I learned I don't like hiking very much. I mean, I did a lot of hiking, and I did even some mountaineering and mountain climbing and stuff. But my knees are kind of messed up, and so hiking is super hard on my knees. I can ride a bike all day.
Hiking for me is mentally very disturbing.
Because
all I do is walk around and think, man, this would be so much more fun on a bike.
So I got into, I really enjoyed riding out to the work sites when we were working somewhere. And just because of my engineering background and my manufacturing background, I just started trying to figure out how can I make myself packable tools that I can throw in my backpack and ride out to the work site. And I just started doing that, and I, cobbled together all kinds of stupid crap, that sometimes worked and sometimes wasn't so great. And then I'd find a commercial, something I could buy that, that might work. And then those tended to be not very good either.
Right.
And so I just kept doing that, messing around with that. Had a couple of machine tools in my garage, and that was, finally sat down and said, I should make myself something really nice. I have some time, I have some equipment here. And that was where I started doing what became Trailboss Tools.
So you just started out just kind of like trying to figure out how to get something out there easier, basically, is what it came down to.
The whole motivation was I want to ride out to the work site.
I mean, I've carried a regular full-size McLeod out to a trail that was pretty remote, and I had that thing like strapped to the top tube of my bike and like sticking out the front like some kind of battering ram, and it was ridiculous. You know what I mean? It was ridiculous. And there's some spots of the trail where it's like it's not all slow climb, so it's like, okay, how am I like I've done that. I've done that with a what do you call it, like a pickaxe, just through that handle that goes on the top of the camelback, and I'm just like, man, if I fall down wrong, I'm gonna be a shish kebab, So I could definitely see where the mind starts ticking, and if you have that background to start at it. So like, what was the first thing? Was it just the McLeod? That was the first thing.
Just a McLeod, First thing up was a McLeod, and made the handle parts pretty much like a Trailboss is today. Maybe we've certainly done a lot of refinements as we've gone along here over the years, but pretty much that same basic idea of a fiberglass handle bonded into some connectors that screw together, and then a removable head on the end of it. But at the time, the only head we had was a McLeod.
And so how do you bond that plastic to metal? Like, is it just some kind
of it's a delicate process.
Yeah.
It's critical actually how you do it, and the way you prep the surfaces on the metal, the kind of epoxy you use. There's 100, 200, 500 different kinds of epoxies for all kinds of different applications. And so the kind of epoxy you use for the kind of application really matters. How you prep the surface, how much epoxy you put in there in the actual joint that you're creating, the bond joint that you're creating, how you make sure it's all dispersed right. All that matters. That all matters.
Is there some kind of like knurling or anything like that on the inside to like give it like some kind of grip, or is it?
There's a couple secret things in there that.
That's in the sauce there. Yeah. So right on. So you started building this McLeod. What were some of the issues that you ran into?
Oh, first off, figured out very quickly you can't drill a hole in fiberglass and put a bolt through it because cracks propagate up the handle and falls apart. Getting enough surface area on the bond so that it survives well, holds up well. Figuring out where the stress points are and how to reinforce those kinds of things. That was all developed over time. And then as we started, rather than, I started off making one tool for me, and then some friends were like, "Oh, that looks pretty cool." And so I made a couple more and just said, "Here, try this out." And then, it just kind of grew organically from there. Made 10 the next run, made 15 or 20 the next run, and decided maybe I can actually sell these things.
And that was kind of just while you were still just doing your day job. It's kind of like your little
doing my regular engineering job and doing this on the side. And had no intention of really turning it into a business.
Right.
And then that just kind of happened, and
just happened on its own.
And it was fun. I was thoroughly enjoying it. So I was, working my day job and traveling pretty much around the world, and back home on the weekends and making some tools and goofing around with that. So then at some point it was like, I think I can just do this full time.
So did you have like a full-on machine shop at that point, or
in the world of machine shops, I would call it a tool room that I had. I basically had equipment that you would normally see in a tool room. There was no CNC machines. It was just me turning cranks and making things. And the first 2 years of Trailboss, that was it. That was me. I made everything. And then there was a point that came where the quantities were simply unreasonably large, that it didn't make sense for me to make them on manual machines anymore. And
did you were you just like word of mouth still, or did you have a website at that point?
Oh, totally word of mouth. Yeah, totally. Somewhere in there we put a website up, but that was it. And sold some stuff off the website, and transitioned into a company here near me in Bellingham. Our machine shop's 2 miles away from my door. Iron Gate Machine. They're a quality shop. I knew them from my previous career, and turns out a bunch of mountain bikers work there. And I said, "Hey, I want to start making these," and they were like, "Yeah, we're all in. What do you want to do?" So super good crew of people. They basically treat me like an additional employee when I just walk in there, and we can talk about stuff. And it's great.
So then they're machining the parts for you at this point, and then you're
they're machining
some of the other things, and
they're basically machining all the aluminum stuff. So all the aluminum parts that make up the handle connectors, the couplings. And the adapters that go on the tool heads, but the tool heads are all steel, and hardened steel. And we've kind of morphed from from me buying commercial things and cutting the handles off.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these things, they're made in, 10,000 quantity runs.
Right.
And I want to buy 40 of those
Yeah.
with no handle.
Right.
And that doesn't get much traction with the manufacturers of those things. They don't really care. So we did that for a while. But pretty much now, nearly everything we have is made in house now, including the heads.
Oh, wow.
We're not buying commercial stuff, and so we've been especially during the pandemic time, we've been tooling up to make all our heads in house, buying equipment, tooling up for that, building custom fixturing and tooling for doing it. So yeah, that's been our mission the last couple of years, is we're bringing everything in house so that we're kind of in control of our own destiny, and it gives us a lot of flexibility. If we want to make changes, we can make our own shapes. Oh, let's try this shape. We've got a great water jet laser cutter place that's about 5 doors down from our machine shop, and they're they're a high quality industrial fabricator, and so they do all our laser cut stuff. We buy large sheets of steel now, and they laser cut the shapes out for us.
So I guess just to take a step back for people that are listening, I always assume that whoever's listening to the episode knows what we're talking about, but maybe somebody has never heard of what you're doing. So I'll do my best to explain it, and then feel free to interject at any point. But basically, what he's creating is these packable trail building tools, which if you haven't figured that out yet, but essentially like a McLeod or a rake or a saw, and it has like typically when you would buy one of those, let's just say from Home Depot, the handle is like 48 inches long, and his handle has different mounting points so that it can screw together, and then you can also just carry the heads that you want. So maybe you want to just take a McLeod and a little handsaw, you can take those two pieces, wrap them up in your Camelback, and jump on your bike and go, and you don't have these huge tools that you're trying to lug around. So I think I don't know of any other products out there that are similar to yours.
There's a company in Germany that's recently started, and it's very similar. There've been I'm going to say there's been maybe four or five companies that have started up and not succeeded. The German guys are relatively new. So we'll see how they do. It's a challenging enterprise, because you're trying to make something that is packable, so it's compact enough you can put it in a backpack, but when you're using it, it needs to be durable enough that you can use it just like you'd use a regular long handle tool.
And I mean, those things take a beating. I mean, you're like a pickaxe, for example. I mean, you're swinging it straight into a rock, and you're banging the fiberglass all over everything that you mess it up on, and
it's challenging. And you're trying to make it, somewhat lightweight. It can't be super heavy. Like we could make the whole thing out of steel. It'd be really stout and strong, and you wouldn't break it, and you wouldn't ever want to carry it with you.
So, well, it's a niche market too.
What's that?
I said, and it's a niche market too. I mean, it's
super tiny. So super tiny little market.
I would imagine the startup of trying to be a competitor is really high, and then to like have to learn all the things that you're doing. I mean, we're not to say that anything's impossible, but man, that seems like a big hill to climb.
Yeah, it is. It's and in my view anyway, it's something you really have to want to do. You need. I mean, for me, it's just I really wanted to do this, and I wanted to figure out how we could be successful at it, and really make something that worked well. And it takes effort, and it takes, not to use this overused term, but it takes, continuous effort. You're constantly evaluating what's going on and what do you need to change and how do you need to improve this thing. And it's like, for us, it's almost every run we're being self-critical and trying to figure out what can we do to either do a better job making it, have the quality be consistent, and then making little tweaks, always making little tweaks to features to make it stronger, better. And it's all based on customer feedback. One of the things we really that we've stuck with over the years is we only sell direct. We don't have distributors. We don't go through any kind of indirect sales. One exception. There's one exception to that, but otherwise around the world we just sell direct, because that direct feedback from our customers is just so valuable. If somebody breaks a handle, we ask them to send us pictures, what they're doing. We'll pay to have it shipped back to us. We send them a replacement. We say, put that in the box. There's a label. Send it back to us. We can dissect it and see what happened. And was it just overstressed, or was it a manufacturing default, or a defect, or what happened? So it's super important to do that, and because we just work directly with our customers, it makes that all that much better. It's a weird little enterprise. Humans can break anything,
right?
Given enough persistence, and enough desire to break that thing, we can do it. So they're not unbreakable, but we do try and make them stout enough that it's not likely to break.
What's the warranty like on the products?
5 years.
5 years. Okay.
5 years on a hand tool. Yeah. And we rely very heavily on our customers. The bike industry joke, I was just riding around, frame broke in half. So we rely a lot on our customers being straightforward with us about, I drove my truck over this. I'm really sorry. That would not be covered under warranty. But everybody's, we have the best customers in the world. We really do. It's crazy. Having worked in manufacturing and all kinds of different industries, I can just unqualified say we have the best customers in the world, because everybody's outside doing what they love to do. They're having fun. People who build trails love building trails. What we can do to help them out and make it easier on them, allow them to do a better job, whatever. It just works really well. And
it's really nice to have something that can be packed in and out, because there's a project that I work on and we just have stuff laying all over the woods, and it's like you don't know if somebody's going to come by and take it, or you don't know if some bear is going to go chew it up, or like
I always forget where I put it.
Yeah. Well, we've had that plenty of times too.
Buckets and a shovel and something else stashed out there, and I'm go back out to work, and I'm like, I put it behind that tree. Well, not that tree. Yeah, damn it.
Yeah. And every once in a while I'll be riding down that trail and I'll be like, oh my God, there's the freaking McLeod that's right. We were working on that corner. I totally forgot about it, and like, it's just crazy how many and then the abuse that they take from just being outside in the weather, is like a lot, not very good for the tools themselves either.
We repair. I was on the board and then the board president for a while for the Waka Mountain Bike Coalition here in Bellingham, and as part of that, and me having a tool making company, we offered to repair and sharpen the club's tools all the time, and some of them are pretty rough. Some of them have been outside for a while. And then it's like, that handle's got to go. It's pretty trashed.
Right. For the most part, I would assume that the people that are using your tools are just like trail building types. You wouldn't see that in like firefighting that much or stuff like that, would you? Because they're kind of getting dropped off closer.
That's a great question. We don't intentionally go after that, but there is certainly some overlap. So we have had some fire crews buy Trailboss tools. They tend to be I don't want to say hot shot, but they tend to be the rapid response teams that
okay.
Folks
The
that
search and
they're
rescue
folks,
kind of types.
yeah, they're folks that have to have firefighting tools in their rig,
Uh-huh.
and they're all quite often first responders to a something, and they need to
Uh-huh.
be able to get out there quickly, but they don't like having a whole array of long handled tools bouncing around in their vehicle that
Right.
they only use occasionally. They're not firefighters; they're first
Right.
responders. And so we've had a few of those folks buy them.
Mm.
The one place we've had real success is our one distributor in the world is in Australia. It's got a company
Mhm.
called Forestry Tools, and
I really thought you were going to say your one distributor was the Path Bike Shop. That's what I was thinking.
it would have been a good story,
right?
No, it's this company in Australia. Great little company. They sell all kinds of agricultural tool products, forestry tool products, obviously by their name, but they sell to the Australian government. And one of the rules with the Australian government is they can only buy from Australian companies. And so somebody in the New South Wales, sort of Sydney area on the east side of the continent, saw Trailboss tools and wanted them to try them out, and got in touch with Forestry Tools, who contacted us, and they said, "Hey, our customer, the Australian government, is interested in looking at your guys' tool." So we did that, and then they ended up buying them, and they've been buying tools from us now for, I'm going to say, 6 years.
Oh, wow.
So once or twice a year, we put a big pile of tools on a pallet,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody picks it up, and it ends up in a container, and it goes to Australia.
Wow.
And it's for the New South Wales hotshot crews. They use them there, and they are the largest hotshot crew in the world.
Uh-huh.
New South
Wow.
Wales firefighters. And yeah, it was just completely off of, a guy or a somebody or set of somebody saw them, tried them out, they
Right.
fit their need, and they keep buying and replenishing over year.
So like a lot of my friends that trail build, we've all had these things like on our wish list or whatever, for a long time. And one of the things that I always am like back and forth on is like you have one handle that's 4 pieces and one handle that's 3 pieces. And I'm always like, man, I don't know which
Yeah,
one.
what
So
do you do here?
how do people decide what they want there? Is it
Yeah, it's so the main thing between the 3 and the 4 piece is the 4 piece one packs a lot smaller. The 3 piece, they're both handles of the same length. They're both 48 inches when you have 3 or 4 pieces, but the 3 piece one, they're 16-inch long segments, and the 4 piece one, they're 12-inch long segments. So if you have a shorter backpack or a more compact space you need to get them into, the 4 piece is shorter, and so it packs smaller.
Yeah, my in my head, I figured that as much, but like then I worried about, well, like my knee jerk would be get the 4 because then I can get it in a smaller bag, right? And then but then I was like, is there how do I know that my hand placement's going to be okay? Like, do people have that issue with the 4 piece at all?
That's been one of the early speculations folks make is, oh, I'm going to have these couplings in the way and it's going to bother me for what I'm doing. And at least our experience and the feedback from our customers is absolutely doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter. I've found, just me personally, I've found that when I use a regular long handle tool, I miss having the grab points where the couplings are.
Because it gives
I
you like
find
another
myself
point.
grabbing on where the couplings are because I can get a better grip and I can pull with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And my hands, and especially if it's kind of slimy out, happens occasionally up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Right. We don't know anything about that in Northern California.
Yeah, not anymore. Oh well.
Yeah. Our build season's a little different than yours.
Yeah. But I think it's kind of a non-issue, just based on, again, feedback from our customers.
And even when they're using like the pickaxe or whatever, like normally, I mean, I use a heavier pickaxe normally, so you're kind of using the weight of itself and sliding your hand across the handle to throw it.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't seem to get in the way there. Or?
It doesn't seem to. What we recommend for people using a pick is, first of all, you don't use the full length handle. Take a section out.
Right.
So using a shorter handle. That is one of the other advantages of the 4 over the 3. When you take a piece out, you've got a 36-inch handle, which is pretty similar to most axe haft handles. When you take a piece out of the 3-piece, you have a 32-inch handle.
So it's kind of short.
It's a bit short.
Yeah, it feels a little stubby then. Okay, well, that's good. That's good advice.
36 is nice. And the other thing is, we try and encourage people to do is, you can mix and match handle segments. We don't.
Yeah.
If you want a 3-piece that consists of 2 16s and a 12, great. You like that length, or you want a 4-piece with 3 12s and a 16 in it because you're a bit taller and you like longer handle. Yeah, that'll work fine.
Yeah. I think some of that stuff is like you'll figure it out once you have it, but I mean, it's pricey, so it's not like you feel like you want to get it right the first time,
Right. Yeah. We will send a demo tool to somebody if they're agonizing over what to do. If they're serious, we'll pay shipping one way if they'll pay to ship it back to us when they're done. And happy to send somebody a demo tool with some stuff that they can experiment with, see what they like.
So how did you go about figuring out what fiberglass to use? You said earlier you drill a hole.
I back in the early 2000s, I got involved on a project with Boeing commercial airplane, working on the first plastic commercial airplane, the Boeing 787. It's an all composite commercial airplane, and that was my intro to working with composite materials, which is essentially different kinds of materials put together. In this case, you've got fibers that sit in a plastic matrix, and the direction that you run those fibers can determine how the thing behaves and how strong it is. And the plastic is just there to hold the fibers in place.
So it's kind of like carbon fiber, basically.
It is. The only difference between carbon fiber and fiberglass is the fibers. The fibers are glass fibers and fiberglass, and they're carbon fibers and carbon fiber stuff. Otherwise, it's the same stuff.
Glass fibers is hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah. It's similar to carbon fibers. They're really strong along the length of the fiber. When you pull or compress that thing along its length, it's very strong, and it's completely weak in every other direction. And the same is true for carbon fiber.
So it's the layup then, so
it's how the layup goes that matters, the direction the fibers are going. And so these fiberglass tubes that we use are they're industrial tubes. They're not tool handle tubes. They're actually industrial tubes that are used in structures, to build structures, and like ladders and catwalks and bridges and all kinds of stuff, inside, outside kind of thing, but they're structural members. And that's what we use for our tool handles, are the structural members. And so they're laid up, and the integrity of them and the strength of them is really, really good compared to like your.
So they're hollow in the middle though, right?
They're hollow in the middle. Yeah.
So I was wondering, so then there's not some kind of like weird feedback when you're hitting on the stuff or anything like that?
I find it really, really nice. They're very compliant in the right way. So it's not like taking an aluminum baseball bat and hitting it against a chain link fence.
Right.
It's
So were you able to like adjust the wall thickness of the tube to like until you got what you were happy with, or was it just
we had some choices on what those wall thicknesses are. We settled on one, and we actually have some reinforcements inside the tube. Part of our bonding assembly process. We put reinforcements in the high stress areas inside the tube, so it's not completely hollow. It's reinforced in the high stress areas.
Got it.
And so then, but the rest of the tube is nicely compliant. So it's much less stressful to use a compliant tool. It's less stressful on the human at the end, at the swinging end of the tool.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people have, like, when you're playing baseball or something like that and you crack that ball just wrong, man, it'll it feels like it shakes you down to your like ankles, like you definitely don't want that when you're using a trail tool.
Yeah. One of our handle sections uses a steel tube instead of fiberglass.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's an upgrade though, right?
It's an upgrade, but yeah, it's
what's
available,
the reason? What would be the reason that somebody would want that?
We usually encourage somebody to get that somewhat depending on where they're working. So if they're working in a very rocky area or in an area where they're going to be using a pick or using a shovel and really, really leaning hard on the shovel, like clay type soils, where they're going to be putting a lot of stress on the handle, we'll recommend that they get the one steel segment. So in a 3-piece handle, that'd be one steel segment that's attached to the tool head and 2 fiberglass segments up above it. And then that gives you kind of this mix of compliance for the user, so you're not shocking your system every time you hit something. But on the tool head and where the highest stresses are and where the most abuse happens, there you've got steel material instead of fiberglass, and it can take some hits and it can take some bending forces, more so than the fiberglass.
Right. So that steel one only comes in one length, or it comes in the short length?
Oh, we make it in both 12 and 16s, and then custom we've made it in also 24s. We did a set of tools for some helidrop firefighter guys in Montana, and so we made a custom 24s for them. So it was a 24-inch steel section and a 24-inch grip handle section out of fiberglass. Nice. And they needed the steel section because the firefighters stick them in hot places from time to time.
Yeah, well, that makes sense too, right?
And fiberglass is plastic. That doesn't go so well.
So you use like a really nice color blue for your anodizing on all your aluminum parts. What made you choose that?
A complete accident on my part. I am color agnostic. I'm an engineer.
Right.
I find it hard to pay much attention to what color something is. I picked it out of a Pantone catalog.
Yeah.
I just was like, I like that blue. Let's do that.
Right.
It turns out it was a pretty good choice in the world of Pantone color selection and so on. It apparently communicates strength and durability.
There you go.
Who am I to know that?
Maybe I learned that. You picked it, right?
Yeah, my business partner Tim is the color Nazi here. He inflicts color attentiveness on all of us. We must pay attention.
Color attentiveness. I would have never thought I was going to hear those words together. That's funny. So, I mean, the people that are listening that haven't seen these before, they're generally the handles are gray, and all the connecting pieces are this nice blue.
Would you like me to? I could grab one in about 30 seconds.
It's all right, because the majority of people listen anyways, and everybody else that's on their machine, they can click the link and show more and see.
Yeah.
So, but it's a nice color blue anodized, and then the heads themselves are like, it looks like they're powder coated black or something like that.
They're powder coated black for the most part.
Yeah. So you said you started doing your heads by yourself. How do you guys make those? You're like melting metal down and pouring it into something, or
it's so right now we're making McLeods and rakes and hose and mattocks out of steel plate. So we have the shapes laser cut that we want out of the steel plate. And it's either eighth inch or 1/4 inch thick, depending on what we're making. The McLeods are 1/8 inch thick. The hose and the digging tools are 1/4 inch thick, and it's a pre-hardened steel. So it's I'm trying to think if there's something equivalent that it's hardened to. It's
so then you just bend it, like kind of,
and then we have some forming equipment for shaping it, and we have some milling machines for cutting it. We put the edge on in a milling operation.
okay.
With sharp edges on them with milling operations.
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought about using a mill to sharpen the blade like that.
Right. Yeah. It's way faster than standing at a grinder. Way faster and way more pleasant than standing at a grinder. I'm a tool maker. I mean, not literal maker with Trailboss, but also a tool maker making tools to make other things. So we've got a whole set of fixtures for all these different things that go on the milling machine. So we can just like throw the laser cut blank in, clamp it down, hit the button, takes the cut, take it out, rewind the machine, throw the next one in, hit the button, away we go.
What's the time? How long does it take to make one of these? Like if they're making a McLeod?
Oh boy, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, off the top of my head.
I have a buddy
there's a lot of steps. Let me just say that there's a lot of steps in the process here. So.
Right. Because I mean, you have to mill the pieces, you have to get the head, you have to put them together and send them to Anno and all powder coating and all that kind of stuff.
Some of the heads have welding on them, so we have to have a tab welded on them for locating the adapter that gets bolted to it.
Oh, okay.
And the whole thing gets powder coated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
we're working on right now making our own shovel.
Oh, okay.
That's a fun, challenging thing. Shovels are a manufacturing process of their own. The difficulty with a shovel is it's so thin, but you're forming it into this shape. It's got bends in it or curvature to it. That puts stresses in the metal, and then you have to heat treat them. Shovels need to be heat treated to be strong enough that you're not going to bend it when you use it. And when they get heat treated, because of all those residual stresses in the metal, they warp. So now you have to take that heat treated piece that's now warped and straighten it.
Interesting. You can't mill. You can't like machine a shovel.
Not really. It's so thin, figuring out how to hold it and how you would do it would be really difficult.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So
it
so we're working on that right now. It's going pretty well. It's going to take us a little while to work out all the process steps that we have a good solid thing. We do a lot of physical testing. We'll speculate on what something should be like, make up a design, build some prototypes, go beat them up, figure out what's what.
Were you always a guy that wanted to start his own business? Like, were you like somewhere in your life where you're like, man, someday I'd love to be my own boss?
I have always done that kind of thing. I don't know that it's really been a mission on my part to, I got to have my own business. But I mean, as a kid, at 14 years old, I was the neighborhood window washer, and I bought a squeegee and a bucket and a nice sponge and a stick to put them on and went around knocking on doors to wash people's windows,
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done that kind of thing, on and off in my life. Mostly I've worked for other companies. Mostly I've, had a job, usually with smaller. I like smaller companies than bigger companies. I've worked for some really big companies, and I like the smaller ones a lot better.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. Earlier in my career, I always wanted to work for a bigger company and have bigger budgets and spend more money and more people. And I just felt like it was something that meant a lot. And then later I took this job as a small company because it was going to be like, it was a good title. And I felt like it was going to be good for my moving up, and instead what happened is I just stayed there because I liked it. And then I was like, I guess I don't like big companies anymore. But yeah, it's interesting. Now I'm kind of in both of the worlds because I work for a company that's, part of a really big company, but the vibe of where we're at, it seems like we're just like a little small place, So.
Yeah, there's big businesses that pull that off quite nicely. They're good at that, and it's great.
We're definitely like a redheaded stepchild section, though. Like,
yeah. It's a little bit of a badge of honor,
Yeah. Definitely something like that. So what was that like for you to like go through that process of, hey, I got this 9-to-5 job that like pays my bills and I have benefits, and now I have this thing that looks like it could be something more. Like, how do you go about making that leap?
Yeah, it's a hard decision, right? It's really difficult to decide to, for me, take a gigantic pay cut,
Yeah.
and do a quite risky thing. But it was I was getting towards the end of my professional career. I was feeling kind of stale, kind of stagnated in what I was doing, and nothing to do with my job. I had an awesome job. I just had been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah.
And got to the point where I felt like, so I was sort of critical in the company. It was about a 200-ish person company. I had a really critical role in the company as the product manager. And I got to the point where I felt like I'm not personally doing as good of a job as I should be doing.
Yeah.
And having a hard time kicking myself in the butt and saying, you need to do better, and I was just kind of stagnating there.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was doing a disservice to everybody around me at that. And just decided, this is a good time to do this. Let's do this. And I took the, hey, I'm going to quit and I'm going to start doing this Trailboss thing, but I'm available to consult with you guys.
There you go.
So I actually did that for a couple of years, and it worked out okay.
That's always good. That eases the pain a little bit, right?
Yeah. And so it was kind of a soft exit when I left, because I kept helping out for a couple of years. And so it worked out okay. It was a transitionary thing, and and so Trailboss was growing and picking up and getting busy. And
so how many people do you have at Trailboss now?
There's 4 of us total.
I always tell people on this podcast a lot that things in the bike industry a lot of times are much smaller than you think. And I've noticed that, that and before I was, in the industry the way that I am, I totally thought, like if you went and bought a helmet from this place that there was like 1,000 people making it, and not like 15. Like a lot of companies that you see in every bike shop out there are not huge companies, and that's the one thing that I really, really enjoy about doing this podcast is like helping people realize that like when you buy this thing, like you're feeding that kid's family or that guy's family, or you're like putting that guy's kids through college, or you're, putting food on that dude's table. And because a lot of people tend to, the way that the world is like globalized nowadays, they tend to disconnect from that. And, I think, back in the day, like you went to the hardware store, it was like Bob's running the hardware store, you're giving your money to him. But like now it's like, it's Home Depot. It's like, whatever, and so it's really
we had a super nice experience last week. We were at Crankworks in Whistler for a couple of days, and took a day to just do some riding together. So we had a little. I'm going to very generously call it a team building ride.
There you go.
Basically 4 of us went out for a ride. Not the big deal. But it was in a little bit west of Whistler in this place where Chromag Bikes is, and North Shore Billet Components are right next door to each other.
Cool.
In the same little place, and it's where the trailhead was for the trail that we were going to ride.
Yeah.
Swung by just to say hi to those guys, and it was super cool. We just walked in. Hey, hi. We're just we're the guys who make Trailboss. Great, and gave us got the tour and a lovely conversation. It was just really fun. And again, 2 little places just making their cool little stuff that they make. I love Chromag's bikes, and, North Shore Billet guys, I really wasn't too familiar with their stuff, but it's sweet.
A buddy of mine, he runs Project 321. They do hubs, and he does all his own machining and stuff like that. it kind of, I think that whole business started just because he was a bike rider and he had his machine shop, and it was kind of like started making things for something that he wanted to do on his own. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, this is a business.
Right. Yeah.
So,
fun stuff.
Which one of the tools is like the most difficult to make?
Oh, out of all of them, just the handle itself is probably the most technically complex thing that requires us to be really diligent and really precise in all the assembly operations to put that thing together.
That's really interesting because
that's the most core critical thing is the handle.
What is it that's so specific about it? Just because like the way that it like
the bonded joints, the kind of materials we're working with, everything has to fit super well. The machine tolerances on the couplings are really important for a bunch of different reasons.
Because you don't have any like wiggle or anything like that, or
that to a large extent is what makes it work well. Is fairly tight tolerances where they need to be, and so yeah, the handle itself is probably the most critical piece. Then after that, the shovel's complicated. The current shovel we have, we buy a shovel from a company called Nupla. It's a big tool making company. They sell us just the blades because we buy a few hundred at a time, and all the adapter that goes on the end. It's a complicated little set of steps to plug the adapter onto the end of it that the Trailboss handle screws onto.
When I've been, go ahead.
I was going to say, so our mission with our making our own shovel is to try and simplify some of that. So it's a little bit easier to make, and it packs a little bit better. So we're trying to head in that direction with it.
On your site, there's a few different packages that are sold out. Is that is that normal, or is that like just because of like COVID kind of stuff, or is it
since 2020 there is no normal?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna,
it's the new normal.
I'll throw that out there. Oh, this happened. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So we're doing a lot better than we were during the peak of the pandemic. We were having trouble getting supplies, and almost nothing that we buy comes to us via a container over the ocean. Almost everything we buy is domestic, and we were still having trouble. The domestic suppliers were all having trouble. Everybody was having trouble making stuff. Getting raw materials was difficult. And so all of that ripples down the supply chain.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there was bike companies that had full bikes that couldn't get them because there was no cardboard to put them in.
Yeah, so we were struggling. We were struggling just getting things. And then one of our main suppliers of the tool heads, just essentially couldn't deliver anything. Just flat couldn't deliver anything.
Oh, wow.
And so that was where we said, okay, we got to make our own. We got to start making our own. So we bought machinery and worked our butts off on the process and worked through making our own digging blades. And now we're doing that. And so now we have that stuff in stock.
Yeah.
We're doing relatively well. A lot of times what you'll see is we have all the bunch of individual pieces parts, but the 6-head kit, for example, we don't have a rake right now. So what we have to do is take the 6-head kit offline because we don't have the rake head at the moment.
Right.
And then
I think everybody, I mean, I think the bundles are nice, but I also think that people that build, they kind of have the things that they know that they like to use. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we call the packages convenience packages. I mean, it's just sitting there. And our most popular one is the 3-head kit that comes in a tool wrap. And so it's a McLeod, a Homatic, and a 13-inch pull saw, and then handles, and then a nice 1000D Cordura wrap that it all fits into, and you can drop that in your backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most popular kit that we have.
I've never used that tool. What was the other one that you call it? It looks kind of like, yeah. What I don't know how I would explain.
It's kind of triangular shaped. It's a digging
digging
hoe on one end. It's wider, and then on the other end it's narrower and has a little mattock end that's maybe 2 inches wide. So
what do you use it for? Like, how do you like to use
so that's a great tool for benching, digging in the dirt. It's heavier than a McLeod, and it's sharper. It's 1/4 inch thick material instead of 1/8 inch.
Got it.
Sharp edges on 3 sides, so it's a really good digging tool. So if you're side hill benching, that's the tool.
So like where I would be using like a pickaxe, if I would have a full tool, then it would be like use that. Okay.
Yeah, use that, and that the pick, either the pick end or the mattock. most of the people using picks are using a pick mattock. So there's a pick on one end and a mattock blade on the other.
Got it. Okay.
That's the pretty common dirt digging tool. I pull that out when it gets rocky. I like the digging hoe better when I have to dig dirt and rocks mix, because I can pull a lot more of it every stroke. I can pull a lot more dirt than I can.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
The smaller mattock, the narrower mattock. I feel like with the mattock, I'm working really hard and not moving too much dirt.
Right. Didn't you have a like bag, like a backpack at one point, or was it just?
We do. We resell the Evoc Trail Builder bag.
That's what it was.
Pack. Okay. It's a nice pack. I like it. We just couldn't get it. They were having. So that's one of the things we buy from Asia. It's made in Vietnam. Evoc's a German company. It's designed at Evoc in Germany.
Yeah.
It's made in Vietnam, then it goes in a container and comes here, and they just weren't showing up for the last 2.5 years.
Got it. So
that dam just broke. We now have a whole bunch of Evoc Trail Builder packs here, so we're in good shape. They're up on the store, and we can sell them.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you guys had worked with them directly to make that, or it was just so they are already made.
No, it's theirs. It's their own. We've been talking to them. Relations have been a lot better in the last couple months, so it's great.
Right on. So your favorite tool to use still the McLeod, or
my favorite tool to use is really it's hard for me to pick one. I like the Homatic and the McLeod together, those two. I happen to have this tool that I can switch the heads on. So I don't have to settle for just one.
Right.
So I like the Homatic and the McLeod combo. That's my go-to. I carry that in my pack. It gives me enough different options. The McLeod's a great finishing tool and tamping tool. The rake is moderately okay. We have a wide rake that's a way better rake. But then it's just a rake. It's not as good of a kind of all-rounder as the McLeod is. And then the Homatic, if I need to dig some dirt out or chunk some rocks or chop some roots, I can do that with the Homatic.
I think the rake would be nice though for just moving a bunch of dirt too. Sometimes whenever you've like benched to some part of a trail and you just need to get a bunch of it out of the way. Like I can't tell you how many times I'm just using my shoes and they're just full of dirt and
that too. The Cascadia guys, they have a lot of Trailboss tools. That if you know that race, so they have a lot of Trailboss tools. So when they're out prepping trail and stuff like that, their go-to is that wide rake. They really like that.
Yeah. What's that? Can you explain that race for people? The race that you were talking about?
Oh, the Cascadia race. So it's a group of guys. They're in. I'm pretty sure they're based in Oregon. Nick and Alex, and it's a multi-day enduro stage race.
Oh, okay.
I think it's either by lottery or by invitation only. It's pretty high end. It's definitely outside my pay grade to go ride. But the the thing that I love about what they do is their mission is to recover old abandoned trail routes and make that part of their race course.
Oh, that's cool.
And so they spend countless sleepless nights, I'm sure, just poring over old topo maps, trying to find old routes in the Cascade Range, in the Sierras in California. They're just looking for these old abandoned routes that they can go to the Forest Service and say, we'd like to recover this route. We want to run an event on it.
Right? Oh, wow.
And we're going to go in, no cost to you guys. We're going to go in and recover this old trail that used to be here. And almost always the reception is, well, hell yeah, let's do that.
Right. Wait, you're going to do something for free?
Yeah. And it's what a great cool project. And they end up making this, I think it's 4 day stages. Very, very high end. It's not cheap to race it, but it's just a lovely event. So yeah, those guys hit us up way early on, many years ago, saying these are perfect for what we're doing. We need to carry tools in way back in, and got some sponsors, bought some tools from us, and they've just been carrying that on. We've now started kind of a little refurbishment unit that we put together where we have a hitch mounted vise and a battery angle grinder and a bunch of batteries and a charger for it and a toolbox and spare parts. And so we go out to these events where we know there's going to be a bunch of people with tools and just set up a tool sharpening refurbishing station out there. And we did that with Cascadia last year. That was really fun.
Oh, right on. Did shoot, what was I just going to say? Oh, how did you guys decide on the saw, how to make the saw?
The saw?
Yeah.
So the saw is just a regular arborist pull saw. It was I'm going to say it was the third head we did. The first head was a McLeod. The second one was a Rogue Homatic. And then the third one we did was the 13-inch pull saw. And I honestly, when I first did it, I was like, everybody carries a saw around in their bag, there's lots of folding saws out there. Why do I want to do this thing? Right. But went ahead and did it, and I'm really glad I did. It works really well having that extended handle on the pull saw. You can really lean into the thing more so than with a folding handle. And I really like that aspect of it. And then the other bonus is you could add more segments, and you've got a pole saw.
Right.
Reach up in the trees and saw stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
And that just comes along with the deal, right? It's just there.
Yeah.
And then we came out with another handle that's just a bike grip. It's basically just a double locking bike grip.
Yeah, it looks like an ODI, like regular.
Yeah, ODI. It's we buy them from Lizard Skins.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you if you guys developed that yourself, or
yeah. So we buy the bike grip from Lizard Skins. We built the internal that has a Trailboss coupling on the end of it, and then you can screw that onto the saw, and you have a little handle of the saw.
Originally I was thinking that that's the way that I would use it, but after you've explained using the longer piece, that kind of makes makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the saw, we ended up we were doing Corona saws, and then we discovered this company called Samurai. That's a Japanese company, but they're really nice quality saws. I really like them. They're not crazy expensive. They're they're on the higher end, but they're still pretty reasonable. Just nice quality. We buy their heavy duty one, which most arbor saws, the spine of the saw is actually tapered, so it gets narrower from the teeth to the back of the spine, and that's so you can do very fine arborist cuts, and it doesn't bind and that kind of thing. Yeah. But it makes them more fragile. We use the heavy duty saw that they have, which is a same thickness.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you like how thick it was, because I've had some folding saws like everybody always talks. I want to say there's a brand or something like that, silk something.
Silky's wonderful. They're a really high end, lovely.
They're
brand.
really nice and they cut amazing, but they're extremely flexible. And I found, at least using it here with all the manzanita that we have, that I just snapped my blade like so fast, and it was. And
like, that's I'm gonna say that's because it's that fine arborist saw that's got the taper on it.
Yeah,
that's really designed. It's really designed for an arborist to do very fine pruning work.
Yeah, that makes sense, because to me, after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going back to the $20 Fiskas from Home Depot, because I could buy 4 of them for the price of that one, you know, and like,
we found that the Samurai ones, it's kind of a nice compromise between silky and the consumer level saw. So it's a level up from the Coronas and the Fiskars.
Right.
They compete directly with silky in that domain.
No, that sounds really, really interesting to try. What's the turnaround time from whenever somebody puts in an order until they get something?
Oh, we will ship it sometimes same day, next day, as long as we have the stuff in stock. And if we're not too backed up, what does happen sometimes is we get a rush of orders. You know, we can't predict when they're coming. So, you know, somebody will place an order and we don't have orders pending. So we pack it and ship it. It will go out the same day or the next day.
It's funny
sometimes we get stacked up, or we get a big order. We get a big institutional order. They want 20 kits of tools, and so we're in the midst of doing that. And so we try and, you know, not have that completely dominate, you know, and ship what we can. But sometimes it might take 3 or 4 days to ship stuff out.
Do you feel like you guys need to like grow and expand, or do you feel like it's just kind of like you guys have the right amount of people for the right amount of work that you're getting? Or
growth is overrated. Profitability is super important, you know. being able to pay your crew every other week over week, and, you know, being able to meet all your bills and have a little money left at the end to improve your processes and do stuff like that, you know. So the 100%. Profitability thing is super important. The growth to me is way less important. I mean, it kind of is what it is, I think. All of our strategy, we refer to it as pull marketing. We basically put stuff out there and try and represent it as best truthfully as well as we can. We think our stuff's pretty good. Here's some other customers who think our stuff's pretty good, but we don't try and push stuff on people. We don't try and sell outwardly, really. We have some good stuff. We have some references of people who like our stuff. Maybe they're doing the same thing you are. Why don't you check it out? You know, and that's pretty much the extent of what we do.
I don't think I've ever seen like a Trailboss ad or anything like that. To me, it was like I heard of it just from word of mouth. It was just like, you know, complaining about carrying stuff, and somebody's like, "Oh man, you got to check out these tools, dude." You know, like kind of one of those things.
So it's just been, you know, it's been that, and you know, as long as we can remain being modestly profitable, we can stay here and continue to do this. And the growth happens how it happens. So
naturally.
So our growth has been really bringing more stuff in house, which means we're doing stuff, which means we have to have more employees to do that stuff. And so
that's got to be scary after coming out of the pandemic, to be thinking about like bringing more in and like being more.
It's
like on one hand, it's probably nice because it's like, hey, I can do it myself, and then on the other hand, it's like I need to support these people though too, you know.
It's another set of responsibilities, and the world's kind of unpredictable. You know, I think it still is a bit unpredictable, and we're having a hard time kind of putting a finger on what's our business volume really going to look like when we actually have stuff readily available and we're doing a good job of manufacturing planning and material supply planning and having enough stuff on order coming in to where we have stuff on the shelf all the time. What's our business volume really going to look like when we're in that mode? And we don't really know. We haven't been in that mode for a good long time because of all the supply issues. So
I'm sure it's stressful, because you're probably always like, man, we're behind on this order, or we're waiting on that, or we can't ship that because of this. And then you probably like fantasize about the pre-COVID days of, remember when we just had stuff everywhere,
We're fine. Yeah. Hey, send me some stuff. Right. It'll be there tomorrow. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. No, that's not that. Yeah. Now it's where's the damn washers?
Yeah.
The washers aren't here.
So do you see that like wrapping up, or does it look like it's like coming?
Oh, it's way better now than it was. Yeah. Yeah. There's still spots. There's still issues. I think completely intuitively, there's been kind of a general drop in quality on stuff.
Yeah.
So we've gotten things in that we've been buying for a while, and we get them in and go, what happened? What happened to that?
Yeah.
And sometimes had to send stuff back just because that's terrible. We can't use that. Here.
What do you think that's attributed to?
I don't have a good explanation.
Yeah, no idea. Yeah, I gotcha.
My guess, just total guess on my part. A lot of places are short-staffed and having a hard time finding people to hire.
Yeah.
But they have orders, they have volume, they have work they have to do, so people are just maxed out.
Yeah.
And when you get like that, you make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the reason, but
yeah, no, I understand. I'm totally speculating. I mean, I would be doing the same thing. I would just be making the same kind of assumption. I know that some people that I personally know that has small businesses, they had problems because of all of the like stimulus stuff that was happening was making it more beneficial for their employees not to come to work than it was for them to come to work. So that was hard. And then it's like you lose people with skill set or talent,
we definitely saw that happening with some of our suppliers.
Yeah.
Where they were like, yeah, that thing's 16 weeks out. I'm like, why is it 16 weeks out? We don't really have anybody working right now.
Right. That's crazy. It's a crazy world. It's like you said earlier, though, about things being unpredictable. I mean, if anything that 2020 showed us, it was like, man, just know anything could happen at any moment,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those things that, you kind of like, I've learned in my own life, but I didn't like expect it to be with like the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was definitely a little bit of a surprise, but I think it also like puts it all into perspective a little bit, where it's like, hey, we're not as like badass as we think we are as like humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what kind of fun stuff are you working on? You still out building any trails currently?
Yeah. We get out and do trail work. That was the Whistler trip, was joining in with the Specialized Soil Searching folks and Free Hub Magazine and B1KER up there, who maintains the Valley Trails. Had a dig day last Tuesday, and it's a regular event. Well, however regular you can be with it being shut down for a couple of years. But I think the first one was in 2017, and Free Hubs are Bellinghamster town mates. The Free Hub Magazine's based in Bellingham. And Crankworks is just a cool place to get together with a bunch of folks, and so we did that dig day on Tuesday. Trailboss takes care of a trail up on Galbraith, our local trail system here in Bellingham. I try and get out to some trail events, so things like the Oregon Timber Trail dig events. I've been to a handful of those. Some evergreen events, Evergreen Mountain Bike, Washington State here. Just doing some of that.
What's your favorite thing to like? What do you like building?
Like
personally, like I like rocks. Like I like doing rock work. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, works cool. Yeah. I like building a little thin ribbon of dirt in the woods. Just a very minimal touch, backcountry style little trail that is kind of interesting, has some cool little twists and turns to it. maybe we've discovered some little natural features we can use for rock rollover, or in between a couple of trees. That's kind of cool, something like that. My favorite is just a ribbon of dirt,
right on.
Ribbon of dirt in the woods.
I would like to build somewhere sometime where I could actually like walk through and plan a route. There's a spot that I work on a lot that's just like all manzanita and chaparral, so you just kind of like guess and then get like blessed from the trail guides. You're like, oh, there's a rock. Yes, sweet, we're going that way, so that's always fun. You mentioned some events. Do you guys ever go out to any kind of the mountain bike type of events to do any kind of marketing that way, or
not too much? It's we go to trail events, and we go to a lot of trail events that are in and around mountain bike type trails. And a lot of the just trail conferences, mountain biking is now a big component in a lot of trail conferences, where it wasn't, several years ago. And so we do that. Not so much, like Sea Otter. Isn't really our jam. It's not the kind of thing we would go to necessarily. I've been to it just as a walking around person, but
it's a little overwhelming as a person personally. Like there's a lot going on there.
We went to Evergreen's annual festival event earlier this year, and that was fun. That was in Port Gamble, Washington.
Oh, okay.
And that was a pretty cool, nicely done event that they had out there.
It's like a mountain biking thing, or
mountain biking event. Just a mountain bike festival. There's their annual festival that they do. But going to Crankworks is obviously a very mountain bike specific thing. But there wouldn't be a reason for us to get a booth there or anything like that.
There's a new documentary out that's from, I think, somebody up there in Bellingham about building.
Oh, Biketown, yeah. Biketown was produced by Freehub Magazine and a guy named Cole Heilborn, who live in town here. And I think they focused on 4 or 6 different places. But one of the places they focused on was the actual story of how the trails of Bellingham came about. And they had another place in Minnesota or Wisconsin.
I haven't got a chance. I got an email from somebody saying that there was a screening nearby. I just didn't have a chance to go.
It's nice. I like it. It was nicely done. There's a predecessor to that one called Pedal Driven. That's also, it was made maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Also really, really good. Similar kind of theme, talking about how trails get realized, how trails get denied, how do you work things out so that you end up with a trail. It's a really nicely done documentary as well.
I'll definitely have to check that out. I'm putting it in my browser right now. That way I don't forget, because otherwise that's gone in like 5 minutes.
Biketown's a worthy movie. It's
I'd like to check it out.
Good. Yeah.
So what do you see as far as the future goes? You guys think you're gonna like try to develop like some kind of new tool, or
keep
doing what you're doing?
Sure. Well, keep doing what we're doing. We keep adding more heads and a variety of things, and we're just constantly tweaking things. So that's a big thing. Just doing that, because we're making all our own stuff. We're in deep in the whole process and how we're doing things. So but more of this, and just supporting trails the best way we can, doing what we can to support and advocate for trails. I think it's important. It's nice to see some of the industries whose products and businesses rely on trails starting to actually recognize that the support and advocacy part for trails is really important. So you see people like Specialized with soil searching and putting significant money into supporting the builder community, supporting the advocacy stuff.
Santa Cruz does.
Santa Cruz Bikes had the Pay Dirt program. Giant and Trek occasionally do some things. Shimano, SRAM does stuff, and SRAM's starting to do more. So it's Yamaha. We just provided tools to some moto organizations that their purchase was funded by grants from Yamaha.
Oh, that's cool.
Yamaha specifically threw them trail building and trail advocacy grant money.
Yeah, I try to like preach to people the best that I can without sounding like some kind of freaking weirdo to go out and do something, and I think that so many people don't realize that, like, a lot of it's really up to you as an individual to take care of this stuff that you're using. And I can't tell you how many times me and a friend have come to like a log, a tree laying across the trail, and it's like just the two of us moved it out of the way, and we passed like 10 people that day that were coming towards us that had to go past it. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, take a minute, man. Like,
I can't even move that.
Yeah, it's like, it's just crazy to me sometimes where it's, people just keep climbing over it and going around it and just not taking that time. And I don't know what I'm hoping that as these like bike industry kind of companies come more into the mix with that stuff, that it seems like for a period of time that maybe the mountain bike industry kind of got away from that, like, no dig, no ride thing, like what you were saying. Yeah. And I'm hoping to see that like kind of come back around.
I think it's becoming more active. We're actually coming out with a product to try and instigate some acknowledgement for the people who work on trails, because one of the disconnects that I see that happens is that historically it's been public agencies who make trails, right? Historically, in the last 75, 100 years, right? Yeah. Prior to that, it was merchants and tradesmen and thieves who made trails, right?
Just trying to get from point A to point B.
Thieves needed an escape route. Merchants needed a place to go along and flog their wares,
Right. Totally.
And then, for the past 75 years, it's public agencies, the U.S. Forest Service, national parks, Bureau of Land Management, state park associations. That it's public agencies who make trails. But then, with the political climate of the, I'm going to say, 80s and the big time budget cuts, government budget cuts that are, even ongoing today, all those public agencies, all they've done since 80s to now is lose resources. They've lost staff. They don't have trail building crews, or if they have trail building crews, they're a shadow of what they used to be. So they're just losing staff and losing budget and losing staff and losing budget to the point where, that entire Forest Service office is a guy sitting at a desk. That's the Forest Service office there. And so there's nobody to take care of facilities, nobody to work on stuff. One of the things that prompted me to start Trailboss was this just super scary US GSA report, the General Services Administration report on the state of the national forest facilities, recreation facilities. And it was like from 2010 or something like that. And it was just horrifically bad. The report was, and what was written up in that report was how the Forest Service needs to rely on user groups to do all the stuff that they used to do that they can't do anymore, and they're going to have to lean on the user groups to pick up that slack. And if you want a trail and you're a hiker, and that hiking trail has eroded and washed out or something like that, there's nobody going to fix it unless you go out there and fix it. And that change has happened, I'm going to say, over the last 30 years, 20 years, to where we sit today is trails are just completely dependent on all us different user groups, whether it's mountain bikers, hikers, or four-wheel drive people, off-road moto guys, hang gliding people who want to get to a hang gliding launch point, need a trail to get up to. I mean, all of that. Climbers, there's a big group called the Access Fund that are all climbers, and their mission is to create, maintain, and establish the hiking trails that get them to the bottom of a climbing route.
Right.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So because nobody else is doing that stuff now, it's up to the user groups that want to do it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, because I think, I'm younger than you, so I never really thought about those trails being. I thought they all never were like, maintained by anybody but the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So to look back.
So where I was heading was we've made a product. We made a packable trail work sign. So nice. It's a packable sign. It weighs about 10 ounces. It packs down to a little tube about that big around and maybe 11 inches, 12 inches long.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes a pyramid shape. It's got tent pole, carbon fiber tent pole or fiberglass tent pole legs, and a couple of fabric panels.
Mm-hmm.
And printed on each one panel says trail work ahead with a little imagery. The back panel just says, hey, happy trails. But the features we added to it is when someone buys one of these from us, we'll print their organization's logo above the trail work section. Oh, cool. So you can see the organization who's doing the work.
Yeah.
Backside, it's got a clear plastic pocket that the organization can print out a donation QR code.
Oh,
slip it in that pocket. And so if somebody's coming by and you got your trail work sign out there and somebody says, hey, thanks for working on the trails. Nice job.
Yeah.
You can point at the QR code and go, how much do you like these trails?
Yeah. Yeah. How thankful are you?
Yeah.
It amazes me, like, the work that gets done. Where I live here in Northern California, I mean, Lake Tahoe is pretty close. Generally speaking, we kind of just refer to anything in the mountains Tahoe, and some of those trails that we ride are like pretty freaking remote, man. And you'll be going through and there's like, hey, this huge log is clearly just been cut, like somebody somehow brought a chainsaw out to where I'm at right now. And it took me, 2 hours of sweating my ass off on a bike, not carrying a chainsaw. Like, how the hell did they get up here with that?
Right. So we think it's really important to try and figure out how to acknowledge who's working on the trails, who's doing this stuff, because it might not be who you think it is. Right. And just getting some acknowledgement for all those folks who put all that hard work in. And so that was the whole purpose behind making that trail work sign, was to come up with a way to do that.
That's really rad. I need one that says "Go the other way." There's not somebody building up here. This is private property. Somebody's.
That's a whole different problem. Yeah.
No, I hear you there though. No, that's really rad that you guys did something like that. That's definitely super cool. It would be nice to see somehow, I don't know how, but like the government to kind of have a different outlook on people going out and proposing trails. It seems like a lot of areas, like California is a big one, especially Northern California, like areas like Marin or whatever, like you can't even an area that was known for starting mountain biking, there's no mountain biking,
I'll tell you what, I'll give you the exclusive scoop here on your podcast.
All right, let's hear it.
I'm being completely a smart ass.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I really want to start a movement where we refer to, what people call illegal trails or unsanctioned trails or community trails or social trails, or you got all these names for all these trails that people beat in, or even trails that people intentionally build, do quite a nice job of. There's a big range of that, right?
Yeah.
I really, really want to encourage everybody to call those trails pre-sanctioned.
Pre-sanctioned. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. I like that.
That's the proper name for those trails. And the reason for that is, this is not universally true, but in a lot of places, if you're sitting down with a land manager to talk about trails and they're telling you you need to stop doing this illegal trail building, or you need to tell people who are doing it to stop doing it. The response to that for the land managers is, that's great. Yeah, we need to know what the proper process is. And can you point us to one trail in your network that was done through the proper process, that wasn't initially a user-built trail that became sanctioned into your inventory? Point us to one in your trail system that was done from concept to end through all the proper channels. Show us one. If you can show us that one, we'll model that and we'll copy what happened there.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, that whole process needs to happen in less than 20 years.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, that's the stuff that's just ridiculous.
Show us how to do that. That'd be awesome. So I really would like to try and push on this idea of, these trails are pre-sanctioned.
Yeah. No, I really like that. Because most places are. I mean, the way that you said it, most trails are just the way that you said it. I mean, I don't need to repeat it again, but it's just I mean, I know of an area here in Northern California that has like over 60 miles of trails that's all pre-sanctioned. And it's one of those things where they've been like trying to get them sanctioned for 20, 30 years.
Right.
And there's people out there enjoying it. It's beautiful. It's like obviously sustainable because it's everything is working well, and it's for whatever reason it's just not doesn't happen.
And that's not to say there aren't cool places where it does happen and happens nicely, and it's very lovely when it happens. I'm thinking of like Oak Ridge, Oregon.
Or Bend for that matter. I mean, that was all road trails. Or Sedona. Sedona was all like road guys out, pre-sanctioning.
Yeah. But I mean, there's places where it happens, but then there's these other places where it's just really impossible to get a sanctioned trail in. And I always puzzle over, what's the difference? Why does this go so great here? Why does it suck over here to do this?
I've noticed on the East Coast, it seems like there's a lot more private landowners that are doing it. Yeah. And you don't see that out here in California. My assumption would just be like the insurance is just ridiculous, or
Yeah, might be that.
But yeah, it's really interesting on the East Coast that you're starting to see more and more like just private land just being developed that way. And I don't know, maybe that's a precursor, that people are starting to see there's a financial payout to it as well. Go ahead.
I was going to say we in Bellingham here, we recreate on mountain bikes on a working tree farm on private land. And the tree farm owner loves us to death. He loves having mountain bikers up there because of all of the tree farm properties he's ever been associated with. This one has no dumping, no drug use, no crime, no illegal fires, no mayhem. Because we're up there recreating all the time. And we work together with the landowner, or with the tree farm, the landowner, and we work together with them on managing that when they're harvesting or when they have something going on, and it's posted and people know not to cross the tape, and
that's good. That's an amazing thing that you have, and the more of those that happen, then the more that people can look at that model and try to follow it. I mean, the thing is like, and also what I was going to say is like a different thing is you don't even need a lot of space to make a really cool trail system. There's one here locally that is a public park it's only a square mile, and it's one of my favorite places. One of my favorite places to ride. It's just like super technical, but it's just like it's a spider web of trails. You got to know which way to go, and sometimes maybe you up your skill set and then you can go the other way too, but it's amazing what you can do with a small amount of property if people are actually kind of like putting their mind to it.
Yeah.
Well, Is there anything that we haven't talked about as far as that you would like people to know about Trailboss?
Hey, we're here.
Yeah.
No, that's been a fun discussion, Robert. I've enjoyed it. It's a nice bunch of wide-ranging topics, and
yeah,
great.
So when people want to get your stuff, just go to your website, trailbossusa.com.
Our website. We have a telephone. If you call a human, you might get a voice message because we're out making stuff, but a human will call you back, and we love talking about our stuff with you and see what you're interested in. So don't. There's a contact button on the webpage. You've got some questions or want to talk about what we're doing.
What is the best way? Like, is there any kind of like referral that you have to like local organizations or something if somebody wanted to be able to put their hands on it before they bought it? Or
oh yeah, I mean, if somebody hit us up on our contact button on our webpage and said, "Hey, I'm in this particular location. Is there somebody you can point me at who's got a Trailboss tool that I can talk to who over here where we are?" Happy to do that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because you answered a lot of my questions, and hopefully mine were similar to what other people think about whenever they're on the site. But I'm sure that there's certain things where it's like, well, I don't know, you know what I mean? So it's nice to be able to put your hands on things sometimes.
Yep.
Well, I really appreciate the time that you took to sit down and talk with us. It's been a great conversation. Really appreciate what you're doing as well.
Thanks.
Hopefully one of these days I can actually pull the trigger. I'm thinking this fall is going to be the one. I'm going to blame COVID last season on like supply issues. You guys didn't have the ones that I wanted. So
got it.
Now we've round the bend. So
I think we're doing a little better now. So
yeah, definitely. So really appreciate, like I said, what you're doing for the trail building community, and as well as for all of us out there trying to cut some stuff in. So thanks again for sitting here with us.
Yep. All right, Robert. My pleasure, really.
Yeah. And all you guys listening here on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thumbs up. You know how that works. Those of you guys, like I mentioned earlier, that want something for free, swing by my Instagram at BikerB1, and don't forget to stop by trailbossusa.com and check out their products, because you'll definitely look at them. You're like, yeah, I know what I'm paying for. This is definitely worth it. These things are pretty rad. So I want you guys all to remember one thing. If there's only one thing that you take out of this, it only takes a bike to be a biker. So get out and be one.